Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and one of the things I always find amusing lately, and it's something that needs to be brought up in this community, and that's about people with their exercise ADHD and their goals, because quite a few people seem to be upset lately. They're saying, hey, why do you put all your training clips up? You only do a few basic exercises. It's like the same stuff over and over again. Even when you change it every now and then to a different exercise, you do it for months in every single workout. And yes, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. That is what I do. And the thing is, my training videos are up there just to document my training and progress as I go, and to just give information while I voice over them and talk about some different concepts. But the reality is, people need to realize it isn't a big deal to only do a few exercises as long as you're covering the motor patterns that you want, the movement patterns that you want. And that's the most important for your strength goals, because I have strength goals in here. I'm not a bodybuilder. And you're stimulating all your major muscle groups to try to correct or avoid muscle imbalances. Your exercise selection doesn't need to be that high. What a lot of guys don't seem to grasp when they get into the iron game like this is that they do not have to make training their life. It isn't necessary to do 37 different exercises to get big, to get strong, to reach your goals. In fact, people will say things like, well, you need all of it just to burn more calories, get more ripped. Well, actually, guys, cardio is better at burning fat than lifting weights is, if you are lifting enough weights to stimulate growth. Meaning, yeah, sure, if you do no weightlifting and you do just cardio, you're going to lose muscle if you're losing weight or dieting. But if you're doing sufficient weight training already, your time would be better spent doing cardio if you want to burn through more fat. That's actually the most efficient way to do it. And a lot of guys choose to do it with weightlifting. And I mean, a few YouTubers choose to do it that way, but it's not necessarily the most efficient. That's just the way that they prefer doing it due to personal preference. It doesn't mean that it's better. That's just their personal preference. And that's okay if that's what makes them happy and makes them feel content and they're not getting hurt doing it. And that's the whole point with this exercise selection thing. All these people who think they need dozens of different exercises for a given body part or set of body parts or in the same workout session don't understand that doesn't give you additional benefits. You're not necessarily gaining more muscle from doing that versus just focusing and getting enough workload, enough volume, enough tension, which is oftentimes less than people think it is, especially on the workload end, to stimulate growth or even really good growth. Then the extra stuff you're doing is for fun. And if you enjoy doing it and you really enjoy spending more time in the gym lifting and doing more exercises because that's what drives you, that's what pumps you up, that's what makes you feel joy and happiness and fulfillment in your life, then by all means continue to do so. But if you're doing it for other reasons, it's time to reconsider things. If you're doing it to make better gains, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's not necessarily true. It's not going to help that. And for a lot of guys, though, it's about exercise ADHD. They can't come in and just do deadlifts and some other exercises every single workout. They can't come in and just hit these big basic exercises every time they train. They get bored with it. But that comes down to the point of, if training is boring to you, and even a fairly efficient training that gets you in and out of the gym faster is boring to you and you need to change it up all the time, then maybe you need to reconsider why you actually train. Maybe training for anything remotely hardcore isn't for you as a person. It's just not suited to your personality or to your life, if that's the reason you're doing it, to break boredom. And it does work. It can alleviate boredom and staleness. But the thing is, that's a certain point where maybe you need to realize that training is just really a hobby for you at that point. It's not something you're that serious and hardcore about if you get bored doing that. Because the people who are the most hardcore, some of the top athletes in the world, they might train with very large volumes, but they still oftentimes have fairly low exercise selection. And we've seen that with a lot of gold medal winning Olympic lifters. That's hardcore. That's way more hardcore type of training when you really think about the goals and where they stand in the world versus most people who are hanging out in gyms for aesthetic type purposes. Yet they don't do a high exercise selection. It's just not necessary for their goals. So if you feel like you need it to alleviate your boredom, maybe step back and reassess why it is you train and how much time you personally really need to be dedicating to the gym. Is this really fulfilling you if you're getting so bored that you've got to change exercises all the time and every workout and everything you do just to avoid boredom? And again, I understand that is, even most coaches know that's the most common reason people do it. But I would argue that if that's the case, you should at least reassess why it is that you train. And if it's training beyond just the minimal for health and fitness, you need to reassess if that's actually making you happy, because it may not be at that point. And the thing that you need to remember Yes, we should all train for health and fitness first and foremost. Anything beyond that is there because it's something you enjoy doing, it's something you love, it's part of a hobby and a lifestyle that you choose to partake in, or you're training for a competitive endeavor. And if these things are not making you happy, they're not making you filled, and you're getting bored, then don't do more than you need just to be healthy and fit. Go do a couple of 20-minute workouts every week and be done. Spend your other time do physical activity, doing other things. Go find a sport you like playing. Go do cardio. Do brisk walking. Do some other activity. Do GPP work. You don't have to come in and lift weights more than the minimum that's necessary if it's not something you're really passionate about and you love. And a lot of guys need to ask that question. They act like it is something they love, but they need pre-workouts to get hyped up. They got to change 37 different exercises every week in order to not get bored in the gym. And I would look at those people and say, well, this really isn't something that you're that motivated, and it's not very fulfilling for you if that's the case. Reassess what you're doing. Now, as far as the minimalist aspects of it, I always get people like, you sure seem to deload a lot. You're deloading like, gosh, at least one deload or half a week every 5 or 6 weeks. And I'm like, well, yeah, guys, I'm old. And I deadlift with a really high frequency. I deadlift heavy with a really high frequency. And it's weird that that's a criticism of me, but one of the most popular routines to ever hit like YouTube fitness ever that I've seen since I first got on here, that a lot of guys are running, a lot of the big YouTubers early on are running, is Jim Wendler's 531. Jim Wendler's 531 is a program based upon 4 basic exercises with a few accessories in it, and you do a full 1 week deload every 4th week of the program. So why aren't people criticizing that? That's a more popular program than any of the programs I put out, and has been run and promoted by channels bigger and more popular than mine in the past. So why aren't you guys criticizing that? That's a program based around 4 exercises and deloading every 4 weeks. So put that in perspective with what I do. And people who've been watching my training clips, you guys go watch through my training playlist over the last year. I have clearly made gains in strength, tremendous gains in size, and I'm leaner. I would say in my most recent training clips in the last couple of weeks, most of the people have noticed, and I've noticed, and friends and family notice, I am probably the biggest and the leanest that I've ever been while on YouTube at this point. So, and I'm not saying there's not some additional supplementation, some creatine and whey protons involved, but I don't use as many of those things as you people might think that I do. I'm pretty much a minimalist there also. I've just changed the way I train a bit. I've changed my diet a bit on top of that, and it has really helped me tremendously. But yeah, I have a few exercises that I do. Honestly, I don't do many exercises right now. These days, what I'm doing is pretty much the beltless deadlift. I do closed grip incline bench press. I'm doing push presses. I do face pulls, hammer curls, and then I do chin-ups and dips at home. And I don't even film the chin-ups and dips at home because I just do them out on my patio. And because I have a chin and dip station at home, there's nothing that impressive about just doing body weight ones. That's where I'm getting my extra training volume in. That's something I'm doing every day, and that's my additional training volume because I don't have a whole lot of volume to my training. And so it's just to make my upper body grow a little better. My arms, chest, shoulders, back, and everything are getting some extra stimulation and workload from doing those. But that's still minimalist because I'm only doing about 7 exercises, and but it's working because, again, if you guys just look through the clips I'm putting up above with the different training, I'm definitely bigger and leaner than I have been. I've definitely gotten stronger. I mean, I've PR'd quite a bit on these, and occasionally I regress with what I do, but I'm also an advanced lifter. I'm 5'9", 225 pounds. I've been training again now for over 4 years straight after being sick and spending all that time in bed. And so, yeah, and I'm older, so I do occasionally stall, and that's normal. And all you guys need to learn to accept that the longer you train and the more advanced you get, the more often you're going to stall. But I stall for a little while, then I make progress again. I stall for a little while, then I make progress again. And it's not necessary to always change up my exercises in order to do that. It's just necessary to take deloads from time to time. Maybe adjust my diet, try to get extra sleep, maybe get some more vegetables in my diet if I feel like I'm really slacking. Maybe I'm getting a little nutrient deficiency somewhere. Maybe some extra broccoli, maybe some extra spinach. And then eventually you push past those plateaus. But people stall. Sometimes people stall for months at a time. Sometimes people stall for years on an exercise. And that's okay as long as you eventually go back to making progress. Because that's what it's all about, guys. It's about progress. And when you're like me and you have certain strength goals on top of just muscle and body composition and everything, it is important that you really focus upon the exercises that you need to improve the most. Because if you don't practice them more often and do them all the time, you're not going to progress on them as much. Again, unless you're using tons and tons and tons of drugs, in which case you can throw some of that out the window. As long as you just train them hard, they'll progress. But for everyone else, you need to do those exercises often. And I have strength goals in addition to body composition goals. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.